from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, this is iRadio 1 o'clock news. First, here are the headlines. Police at the border town of Nimule in eastern Equatoria State says thousands of people have been displaced by the recent cattle-related attacks in Mogali Payam. President Salva Kiir has assured the Kenyan government that Dr. Biara Jack's remark on the Kenyan media will not sever relations between the countries. And a group of lawyers and journalists have launched an initiative calling for the amendment of laws and recommending the death sentence for rape perpetrators in the country. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Lugala Mulai, and now the news in detail. Police at the border town of Nimule in eastern Equatoria State says thousands of people have been displaced by the recent cattle-related attacks in Mogali Payam. On Wednesday night, 20 people were reportedly killed and 11 others are wounded during an attack on Kornyang cattle camp in Mogali Payam. Major David Casimiro said unidentified armed raiders attacked the camp at midnight, killing civilians, including women and children. Some local chiefs in the camp told Nimule police that the bandits went away with more than 10,000 cattle. Close to 100 cows, goats and sheep were also gunned down during the clashes. Speaking to iRadio this morning, Casimiro says the police has assured the IDPs of security and immediate investigation into the matter.
The people who are displaced up to now, they are in the compound, they are there. The RRC and the chiefs registered them now. Like thousand. They are there. We even provide them with the security. Security are there protecting them. Yeah. Some of them from Mogale, some of them from Meligab. We went there yesterday with the organized forces, all the organized forces. The commander of the army and the highway commander also. We went up there, we talked with them, let them be calm. The government is working on it. This problem will be solved. Some of them are staying there, but they are fearing, but they stay there because the forces are there. Protect the civilians in the compound and also they patrol the area.
The police says neither the identity of the attackers nor the motive of the attack has been ascertained up to now. President Salva Kiir has assured the Kenyan government that Dr. Biara Jack's remark on the Kenyan media will not sever relations between the two countries. Last week, Peter Biara Jack, a US-based government critic, alleged in a TV show with KTN that President Salva Kiir could not address mourners in Kenya because he had a hangover. Kiir had traveled to Nairobi on April 28 to eulogize Kibaki, whose state funeral was attended by thousands of mourners the following day. After the event, Dr. Biar was seen on KTN criticizing President Salva Kiir. The exclusive interview drew mixed reactions from the general public, with some criticizing the activist for disrespecting the president. The Kenyan media has so far apologized. Meanwhile, yesterday, President Salva Kiir met in his office with Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the special envoy of Kenya to South Sudan. During the meeting, Kalonzo conveyed a message of gratitude from President Uhuru Kenyatta to President Salva Kiir for attending the state funeral service of the late former Kenyan President Emilio Mwai Kibaki. Dr. Kalonzo described it as a great national importance for Kenya. Speaking to the state-owned TV SSBC, the Kenyan envoy says President Kiir assured him that the relationship between the two countries will not be affected by last week's remarks made by Dr. Biara Jack on the Kenyan media. A group of lawyers and journalists have launched an initiative calling for the amendment of laws and recommending death sentence for rape perpetrators in the country. The move comes after a 5-year-old girl was raped and killed in a will town of northern Baral Ghazal. Yara Jack has more on this story.
Last week, a toddler identified as Abuk was allegedly defiled by a Sudanese trader, leading to violent protests in Awil town. Some protesters reportedly vandalized shops, forcing traders to close down. The prime suspect, 42-year-old Saber Abu Sam, and 2 of his associates are now remanded in jail as they await trial. Meanwhile, the group of whistleblowers in Juba have initiated the campaign to draw attention to rape as a gender-based violence. Lawyer Martha Jube, the Secretary General of the Women's Advocates Association, says the campaign is intended to achieve justice for all victims of rape in South Sudan. This, she said, include ensuring that the prosecutions of people involved in brutal crime. Advocate Martha Jube Jeremiah spoke to iRadio this morning in an exclusive interview in Juba.
The Junubin Against Rape campaign is a campaign that was called for by Sisters Initiative in collaboration with the Women Advocate Association, which is, and we are calling for amendment in the Penal Code, especially Section 2747 of the Penal Code 2008 that defines rape and the sentence for rape. We're also calling for respect for human rights, and we are calling also the communities to stop sexual violence against women and against children, against elderly. We also have on board medical personnel. We have different people from different backgrounds on the campaign, and we are calling more people to join the campaign because we want to make it a nationwide campaign to stop rape and all form of sexual violence against women or men.
The initiative is aimed at a long-term amendment of Article 247, 248, and 249 of the Penal Code of 2008 from imprisonment for 14 years with a fine to the death penalty. The activists also proposed a provision for compensation to families of victims as a way to protect all the children of South Sudan. Cases of sexual violence have continued to rise in South Sudan despite the gender-based violence court sentencing several men to prison. The majority of the rape and defilement incidents are perpetrated against young girls and women. The UN Population Fund recently said a total of 6,295 reported incidents of gender-based violence were recorded from January 1st to 30th of September 2020. iRadio has also been reporting disturbing stories of women and girls being raped in Juba and other parts of the country. There have been numerous calls by UN agencies and international NGOs on South Sudan government to address the social tensions in their society. Reporting for iRadio News, I am Yar Ajak Deng.
You are listening to iRadio News. Police in Rumbek East County of Lake State have arrested a ram allegedly for knocking dead a 45-year-old woman over the weekend. The deceased, identified as Adeo Chaping, was reportedly attacked on her ribs by the angry ram. The notorious animal, which was near the woman, pounced on her when she attempted to stand up. Police spokesperson Elijah Mabor Makwaj says the incident occurred on Sunday in Malenga Gokpayam of Rumbek East County. He says the ram will soon appear before the customary court once the investigation is completed.
The ram attacked by hitting her ribs into broken, and the woman died immediately. So this is what happened at the Rumbek East County at a place called Aqualion. So the ram was apprehended and it is currently under custody at the police station of Malenga Payam. The owner is innocent and the ram is the one who perpetrated the crime. So he deserves to be arrested. Then later on, the case shall be forwarded to customary court where it can be handled amicably.
The legal framework of handling the extraordinary incident is not clear, but according to the customary laws in Lake State, any domestic animal that has killed a person is given a compensation to the family of the deceased. Finally, before moving to stories making headlines in the region and the international scene, the Minister of Finance and Planning has said South Sudan has enough oil underground and that the government is embarking on increasing production to pay the country's loans and arrears. Minister Gaka Chwil has come out to swear that his previous statement on the alleged oil sale until 2027 was taken out of context. Last week, Achwil was quoted by the media as saying the country's oil proceeds have been sold in advance up to 2027, a statement he now reputes. The remarks, which shocked the countries, compelled the president to summon the finance minister and central bank governor yesterday. Minister Achwil told the state-owned television SSBC that the government will increase oil production to more than 300,000 barrels per day to address the economic crisis. He spoke to the media after the sermon yesterday.
We still have our oil in the ground. We still have all our resources in the ground. And the government is embarking on an initiative of oil enhancement to increase the production of the oil. And the process is going on to increase the production of the oil because we still have enough oil under the ground in Southern Sudan. And we are working with Ministry of Petroleum to increase the oil production, whereby if we reach to the level of 350 or 300 barrels per day, 300,000 per day, That means that the talk of loans and the debts and the arrears will be eliminated as soon as our production increase. The government is now embarking on a solution to increase the production of the oil because the oil is still down under the ground.
It is not clear when the major source of the country's revenue was sold out. But in 2014, the government had set plans to borrow 3 billion South Sudanese pounds, about $1 billion to an official rate from the oil companies during that year's national financial budget. This was to cover the repayment of domestic loans and previous oil advances, the government said in a budget document. Minister Agaka Chwil claimed that he found that salaries arrears were not paid in the months of July, August, September and October when he assumed office last year. He said because the government sold out the oil proceeds to pay off accrued loans, making it difficult for the government to pay civil servants. In July last year, President Salva Kiir directed the Ministry of Finance and that of Petroleum to dedicate 5,000 barrels of crude oil per day to regularize the payment of civil servants' salary. Kiir noted that since the government flooded the South Sudanese pound in 2015, civil servant salaries have been adjusted. You are listening to iRadio News and to stories making headlines in the region and the international scene. Here is Yara Jack.
Ethiopia's government-appointed human rights body has accused security forces and their allied armed men of killing 11 people and wounding at least 30 others in the country's eastern.
متى تفوق زاك في محل
Ethiopia's government-appointed human rights body has accused security forces and their allied armed men of killing 11 people and wounding at least 30 others in the country's eastern Somali region. This happened during a traditional ceremony to choose a new clan leader in March. Ethiopia's Human Rights Commission interviewed witnesses and visited graves in the Kursum district. It said security forces had used excessive force to disperse the gathering and recommended a criminal investigation. Elsewhere, Ghana's consumer price inflation rate has hit 23.6%, a sharp rise from 19.4% in March. The latest figures announced by government statisticians Kobina Anim on Wednesday shows that prices for imported items increased faster than locally produced items, the first time in over 2 years. The rise in the cost of food and services has been condemned by Ghanaians who said the cost of living here was fast becoming unbearable. The surging inflation rate, the highest it's been in more than a decade, is expected to derail the country's targeted economic growth. And finally, the U.S. has passed more than 1 million COVID-related deaths, says the White House. President Joe Biden is ordering the flags to be flown at half-staff to mark the milestone. It's the highest official total in the world, although the World Health Organization believes the true death toll may be much higher elsewhere. The U.S. also recorded more than 80 million COVID cases out of 330 million population.
And that was Kafuki Jada with stories making headlines in the region and the international scene, and it was brought to you by MTN. Now to the world of sports, here is Emmanuel Joseph Akile Lodom.
In football, Kevin De Bruyne's stunning 4-goal haul helped Manchester City thump Wolves and restored their 3-point lead at the top of the Premier League. Pep Guardiola's side now need only 4 points from their final 2 fixtures to ensure they will finish above Liverpool and win their 4th title in 5 seasons. Still in England, Erik ten Hag steered Ajax to the Dutch title with 1 game to spare before he takes over as Manchester United boss this summer. They wrapped up the league with a thumping win over Heerenveen at the Cruyff Arena. Inter Milan came from behind against Juventus to clinch a first Coppa Italia since 2011 at the Stadio Olimpico. Hakan 80th minute penalty, forced extra time, and Ivan Perisic scored twice in 3 minutes as Inter lifted the cap for the 8th time. Defeat ended record 14-time winners Juventus' hopes of a trophy this season, the first time that has happened since 2010. Inter will now face Cagliari and Sampdoria in their final 2 league games as they pursue a domestic double. And finally, in boxing, Floyd Mayweather was undefeated in the ring in his boxing career, and now the American is keen to take on a different challenge in Africa's most populous country. The 45-year-old, now a boxing promoter after a successful 21-year professional career, is planning to establish a boxing academy in Nigeria to train young fighters. With 27 knockouts from his 50 career victories, Mayweather was masterful at winning rounds and therefore winning fights, but unlocking Nigeria's potential in the sport could also need a calculated and long-term approach. That's all from the world of sports, and back to you, Lugana Mulai.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Joseph Akile, for the stories making rounds in the world of sports. You are listening to iRadio News, and to end these bulletins, here are the headlines once again. Police at the border town of Nimule in eastern Equatoria State says thousands of people have been displaced by the recent cattle-related attack in Mogali Payam. President Salva Kiir has assured the Kenyan government that Dr. Biara Jack's remark on the Kenyan media will not sever relations between the two countries. And a group of lawyers and journalists have launched an initiative calling for the amendment of laws and recommending death sentence for rape perpetrators in the country. That is the end of iRadio Afternoon News. You can get these stories and updates by subscribing to iRadio News Alert on your MTN South Sudan number. Call 700 or dial star 700 hash and follow the instructions. If there's a story or an event you'd like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message on +211 925 287 870. It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on Twitter at iRadio Juba. Like our Facebook page, iRadio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at hour. I had been Lugala Mulai. Thanks for listening.
متى تفوق زاك في محل